Out there about supplements and how it works. So when we get a blood test, it's just a snapshot in time. So we have to remember that. It's just a window in time. That's what it is. It's like this one snapshot. And that's something to understand when it comes down to blood work and stuff. So when someone says, well, my B12 is fine in my blood test, then why are you sick? Then why are you sick? My blood test was great. My blood work is great. Doctor says everything looks good. Then why are you at the doctor's office? Why are you sick? Why are you breaking out with acne? Why do you have severe depression? Why do you have skin problems? Why do you have eczema? Why do you have psoriasis? Why do you have some other problem too? So there's a lot of confusion out there. It's like, no, my blood work's fine, it looks good. Everything looks good. My nutrients are good. Oh, my B12's great. Yeah. A year later, you got brain fog and you're at a specialist. A year later, you're getting an MRI. 2 years later, you're sick with something else. 3 years later, you got fatigue. 4 years later, hair's falling out, fatigue, skin problems, more acne, depression, everything else. And that's what we're up against. But your blood work was fine. Your blood test was great. Your B12 was perfect, right? Your B12 was perfect. Meanwhile, you're sick. It's like, oh, my blood work was great. I'm great today. 3 years later, you're sick. So let's talk about how this works to begin with and everything around it. So this is all important information. We're talking about supplements today a little bit. Specifically, we're going to talk about melatonin. That's a good one to talk about right there. 5-MTHF. We're going to talk about that. Cat's Claw. I'm not sponsored, by the way. Cat's Claw. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. Maybe a little bit of ashwagandha if we have time. Of course, we got the B12 here. And I think Liz had a question about elderberry syrup with 369 cleanses, right? Because there's honey in this elderberry syrup, which is incredible. Because it's not something else that's in there. It's not like straight corn syrup or sugar or anything like that. So it's nothing like that too. And that's important to know. So you can do with the 369 cleanse, okay? You can do the elderberry syrup with the 369 cleanse. That's not a problem. It's not a lot of honey to begin with, and it's okay. You're welcome, Liz. I mean, if I was doing the 369 cleanse right now and I want to take elderberry syrup, I would do it. I'd take elderberry syrup. All right. So here we are. So I want to go back to the blood work a little bit. It's interesting how someone will say, that all checks out fine in my blood work. My blood work was good. My B12 was good. My calcium was good. My other nutrients were good and everything. But they're sick. And they're dealing with autoimmune. They're dealing with all kinds of other issues and everything. So what is it? Is it really good or not? So I just want to start out real quick with the B12 for a couple of seconds. When B12 is high in your system. So, hey, my B12's high. I don't need B12. But if there's any kind of mental illness, mental health issues, if there's any kind of autoimmune, anything neurological on any level, nervous system, brain and central nervous system, if there's anything like that, anything brain, central nervous system, elevated B12 doesn't mean, oh, that's it, don't need to take B12 ever again. That's not how it works. A couple of things happen. A lot of people are on a high-fat diet. When they're on a high-fat diet, the B12 suspends in their bloodstream. So if they get a blood test and the blood test shows that their B12 is high and they had fat the previous day, nuts, seeds, nut milks, which is fine, right? Chicken, if someone wants to eat chicken. This isn't an anti-animal protein, anti-vegan, whatever. I'm just talking about fats, right? Okay? Cheese, butter, whatever, which is not good. It's not good, right? So say they had some kind of animal fat, or say they had some kind of plant fat, or even avocado the day before. It can suspend nutrients in the bloodstream, not allowing them to absorb easy. So when you get your blood test and you're like, oh, my B12's high, I need to stop my B12. Meanwhile, the fats in the diet are suspending the nutrients in the bloodstream so they don't enter into cells. That's an important piece of information. So, yeah. we're here right now. We're talking about supplements. We're talking about the central nervous system in the moment, talking about B12, how it enters into the central nervous system. So this is critical. Anybody with neurological Lyme that gets information about their blood work and their B12 is high, and I was telling a doctor this the other day, the doctor said to me, what do you recommend, Anthony? Because I give information to doctors all the time. I say I recommend that your patient stays on B12 because they're having neurological symptoms. They got neurological Lyme. They got all the symptoms associated with it, right? And even though their blood test, and this doctor was saying, well, their blood test shows they got plenty of B12. But that doesn't mean the nervous system has plenty of B12. Your central nervous system doesn't have enough B12. Doesn't mean your brain has enough B12. It's a snapshot in the bloodstream. Most likely the B12 they're taking is just suspended because of the fats and oils. And I said, well, what is your neurological Lyme patients on? He said, well, I got them on a keto diet. I'm like, so you got them on a keto diet, so they're on a high-fat diet, so the fats are suspending the nutrients in their bloodstream, and it's not even getting to their central nervous system. So the details matter is what I'm saying. The details matter, all about it, right? So when someone's dealing with a neurological symptom of any kind, so what is a neurological symptom? Tightness of the chest, anxiety, depression, aches and pains, tingles and numbness, ringing in the ears, vertigo and dizziness. Those are just some of them. Restless leg syndrome, creepy crawlies on the skin, sciatic nerve pain, back pain, neck pain, head pain, migraines. This is all neurological. OCD, depersonalization, bipolar, neurological. ADHD, neurological. So, and that's just some of them, you guys. It's some of the neurological symptoms right there. So when it comes down to a central nervous system issue like fatigue, severe fatigue or any kind of fatigue, that's neurological. We got to make sure that the B12, we're getting enough B12 to the central nervous system, to the brainstem, to the brain, to the vagus nerves. So our vagus nerves require B12. It's what keeps us alive. And so what happens is a lot of people, so let's go into like other problems that happen. So somebody be like, well, I'm on a B12. And I'm like, well, what kind of B12 you're on? So I'll tell the doctor, well, the doctor will be like, the doctor I'll talk to will be like, well, I'm giving my patients AW, I'm giving my patients a B12. So can you get the B12 out? They're like, sure, I'll get the B12 out. I go, can you send me a snapshot of that B12? Can you get it out and send a snapshot of that B12? So the doctor will send a photograph of the B12, okay? And then I'll look at it, and then I'll say, can you take a snapshot on the back with the ingredients? And in the back, it'll say everything there, right? Including some things it won't say that are hidden that companies do all the time. Vimergy doesn't do that. I'm not sponsored, but I'm just talking about the B12 that I trust the most. And so I'll look in the back of the bottle. It'll be citric acid in there, or you'll see something crazy like a filler, or you'll see, all right, you'll see a natural flavoring in there. You'll see citric acid, alcohol. You'll see alcohol in there. You'll see a hidden alcohol. You'll see all kinds of things in there. And I'll be like, okay, well, and then you won't see the right kind of B12. The point I'm trying to say is all these details matter to somebody healing, to somebody actually surviving and healing and recovering. It's critical to have the right things. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about, the B12 thing. Another thing, too, people have reactions to B12 when it's all these bad B12s. Now, when someone had B12 shots, I just got to tell you guys, when someone had B12 shots, they become sensitive to B12. So if they ever had a B12 shot in their life, they could become sensitive to B12. And that's when it's critical to have the 5-MTHF, right? The methylfolate. So, because what happens is when someone had B12 shots, a methylation problem occurs with the B12. Because they had a shot of B12. So when you have a shot of B12, the body starts to identify it as not being a positive thing. So then you have an allergic reaction that happens, or an antibody actually gets built up. That's really what happens. An antibody gets built up towards your B12 because you had the B12 shot. When that happens, you don't methylate B12. And so a lot of people have difficulties methylating B12. One reason is because their liver is really dysfunctional. Another reason is because they had the B12 shots. So when they had that in their life and they end up taking B12, they feel like they might react. One of the reasons why they'll react is they'll do the wrong B12, one with alcohol, citric acid, and added things you don't know about, MSG and all that. So they're reacting to the MSG. There's no MSG in this one. This is the Vimergy B12, right? V as in Victor, IMERGY.com if you don't know the company. The point is that they'll use a B12, somebody will use a B12 and have MSG in there and they'll react. That's one problem. Another two is they had B12 shots before. If they had B12 shots before, they get sensitive to B12. So because they end up having a difficult time methylating, their liver has a difficult time methylating. So that's why I like the 5-MTHF. So anybody who thinks they have a B12 problem, whether they're using a bad B12, and that's one of the reasons why they're having the problem, or they're using one that's not good, regardless, it's good to take the methylfolate. So if someone thinks they have a B12 issue, it's good to take the methylfolate at the same time if you want, or you can take it another time. Ask your doctor what's right for you. I'm just telling you what I recommend to doctors. I talk to doctors about their patients all the time. Carissa Sage says, Vimergy B12 has gotten me off Mattress Island. Carissa, I got to tell you something, right? All right, and you're on Facebook, okay? I can't tell you how many people I've seen stuck on Mattress Island with neurological symptoms. Their life is limited, the quality of life they've lost. They're on Mattress Island most of the time in their life. And the right kind of B12 and the right dosage, I've seen people turn around in 10 days from being on Mattress Island. I've talked to doctors who come to me and be like, I got so many people laying on Mattress Island, what you call Mattress Island AW. I got so many people on Mattress Island, and what do I need to do? And I'm like, get B12 in every one of them. Well, their B12 is okay though, AW. I checked their B12. Their B12 seems to be adequate enough in the blood work. Why are they on Mattress Island? So we'll get the B12 in them, right? The right kind. And then the doctor will be like, I'm seeing people rise up like from the grave practically. 10 days later, 12 days later, they're rising up. They're able to function more. They're off a Mattress Island a little bit more each day. They're using their muscles a little bit more now. They're doing things in their kitchen. They're taking walks outside. These details matter. And that's what it's about, the details. So that was a little bit about B12. We got more to talk about. Talking about the central nervous system. So here's the key. Sugar takes the nutrients into our cells, right? Insulin's job, the hormone insulin's job, is to take sugar in your bloodstream and bring it into the cells so you can stay alive. Because without sugar, we die. You guys know that, right? Without sugar, we die. If we don't have a sugar that enters our cells, we die. Our brain has to have sugar in 10 seconds. Without sugar passing 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 12 seconds, our brain starts to die. So glucose is critical. This is how we live, right? It's important to know. Okay? Why do you think a diabetic will go into a diabetic coma? Either something's wrong, they don't have the insulin, or they're out of insulin, right? Or they have another malfunction, right? The malfunction, regardless, is about glucose getting to the brain. The sugar goes low to the brain. And that's why a diabetic will be on the back of a bus or somewhere, or they'll be in a bus somewhere or somewhere else, and they're just going to be, they're like this, passed out, and they're seizuring. And their tongue's hanging out of their mouth. And then you got to put a little orange juice in their mouth to just get them out of it a little bit, regardless of where their insulin is. I mean, I've seen that happen so many times, right? So you have to get sugar to the brain. So nutrients enter our cells through sugars, is what they do. A lot of people are so jacked up on high-fat diets that they're not getting the nutrients where they need to be. So the B12 is one of them. Now, I was telling a doctor the other day, I still recommend, even if somebody's on a high-fat diet, to make sure they get the right supplements in because they can sneak some in. Some will they'll sneak some of those nutrients into their cells. It'll get there. But for maximum healing, you take somebody on mattress island with neurological problems that are suffering, and you lower their fats, and you get the right B12 in them, and you got a chance now. Every day I think about it, like, how does anybody stand a chance of healing with the misinformation out there, for one? How many people are derailed from getting the right information so they don't even stand a chance to heal? They'll never stand a chance to heal. Yeah, you heard it from me. They will never heal. There's people out there that will never heal because the information, it's derailed before it even gets to them, or they just don't learn it, or there's so much misinformation out there. They don't understand B12 or how it works. They don't know about the right things. They'll never heal. They'll go to doctor to doctor, specialist to specialist, and go round and round forever, and they will never get their life back. And that's sad. That happens all the time. So, someone said the other day, I think they actually said the other day in the comment section, right? Like, oh, there he goes with supplements again. Okay, well, okay. It's better to know why you're sick and how to heal, and supplements are a critical way of doing that. Or do you want to just keep on going around, okay, let me buy a $50,000 hyperbaric oxygen chamber, which don't work. They don't work. They've been around forever. I had people pouring into my office for years that tried everything. They purchased oxygen, chambers, all of it. It's cute. It's a great idea, but no, it doesn't work. Go to another doctor and keep on pumping ozone therapy inside of you over and over and over again, which I don't recommend. Keep on going around. Okay, let's go cold plunging now. Let's see if that can fix it. All right. Let's go try a Rife machine. Let's see if that will fix it. How many times those things just ended up in people's closets? That crap gets expensive. Real expensive, and it still doesn't fix things. And that's what I mean over and over again. Oh, grab an alkaline ionizer water machine and poison yourself. It doesn't work. Let's get a $5,000 alkaline ionizer water machine. Let's do that. Right? And people don't realize, their simple, strong, basic details of how to get people out of the muck and out of the darkness and into the light of healing. There's ways to do it. And using the right supplementation is a critical way to do it. It's part of it. Sabine said on Facebook, Vimergy B12 is great. It works good. I had a blood test after 6 months supplementing. I recovered from a lot of problems with the heart rate there. Anthony, you are right with everything. You were telling back in 2020. I hope all listen good to what you and Spirit of Compassion have to say. I recovered from diabetes, type 2 sluggish liver, heavy metal poisoning, Hashimoto's, and Epstein Barr is asleep again. God bless you, really. Sabine, I'm so proud of you. I truly am. So we'll go into some more about the supplements a little bit. So cat's claw. I want to talk about cat's claw for a little bit. So check this out, you guys. Years ago, at different times in my life, when I had an office and people all around the world came to see me, recommended by their doctors, okay? Right? So let's just go back to any time frame I've been doing this, which is decades. The 1990s. People would come to my office, right? After seeing specialist after specialist after specialist, not have a clue to why they were sick with their neurological symptoms and sickness and fatigue and everything, right? And I would have all these herbs on my shelf. All these herbs. And Spirit of Compassion would say, they need cat's claw. Right? So I'd go and get the glass jar off the shelf, like this. I would start up some tea right there in my office, get some hot water going. I'd get the cat's claw out, and the cat's claw would be a dried cat's claw, sitting in a glass jar. I would take the cat's claw out and I would put it in the hot water and steep it right in front of the person. I'd be like, what's that? Okay, it's cat's claw. And then have them sip it right there. And and it wasn't the best cat's claw. It was survival cat's claw. It helped. It was amazing that I had some. No one knew about it. And when I think about where we are today, when like the cat's claw that's in my hands right now, if I had this back then, I could have speeded up so many people's healing processes. Yeah, it helped them when I took the cat's claw out of the glass jar and I made them a cat's claw tea right there in my office, whether it's 1994 or 1997 or 1999, at different times and different people, when Spirit of Compassion said this would be really good for them. And it was beneficial. And their doctor would call me up, their doctor would come to my office, their doctor would sit there. And even as far as back as the 80s, right? And so the point is that if I had something like this at my ready, at their ready, I could have gotten so many more people faster. And, because it took more time to use the dried cat's claw, the best stuff I could find at the time, back all the way, decades ago. And I didn't have the option. So what I realized in the supplement world is there's so much crap out there, and there's so much just junk and misinformation. And I think about it, that people, they don't even know. They just take things for granted. They don't even know, like, what kind of blessings we have that we're so lucky to have here. If I was suffering from neurological Lyme myself personally, if I had all this fatigue and aches and pains, and I had tingles and numbness, and I was suffering, and I had inflammation throughout my body, and I had neurological symptoms because of the Epstein Barr virus, because that's actually behind neurological Lyme. Shingles doesn't help either. And say I had all these viral issues, right? And I had something at the ready, at my disposal like this, and a quality like this. I mean, it's just a miracle is what I'm trying to say. And that's the kind of thing that counts. That's the cat's claw right there. So with cat's claw, and I tell doctors all the time, is your patient on cat's claw? And they'll be like, well, I don't know. There was a cat's claw capsule that I could always try to get them on or something like that. Be like, that's not the answer. I want to hear your patients on cat's claw if you want to get your patients better. When it comes down to the neurological Lyme, neurological symptoms, you don't even have to have a Lyme tag. It's autoimmune. Just autoimmune, right? And then it matters about the right kind of cat's claw. Someone will have a cat's claw, it'll just have alcohol in it. It'll be ripped to shreds inside. The nutrients, the constituents, all the nutrients would be literally damaged from the alcohol. And so you'll have all these issues with the different cat's claws out there. Or dehydrated, capsulated cat's claw. It just doesn't work, right? And the low potency and the low ratio and the low quality, all of it combined with the fillers and everything else. Basically what happens when we have something at our disposal, and let me make something clear right here, right now. Medical meeting information and tools is as basic as just celery juice and see how your problems go away. They're not going away, and they're sticking, and you're only getting some things better. And you stay with your celery juice, and then we move forward. And then it's now the heavy metal detox smoothie, cleaning things up. But if you're somebody that's got a lot of bugs, and say you got the shingles and the CMV, and you got the EBV, and you got the HHV6, and you're sick, and you got the streptococcus causing all kinds of acne and crazy stuff and UTIs with it all. If you're sick, it may not just be celery juice being enough for you. I've never been one to jump in heavy in anything in the sense where you gotta do all these supplements and this is what you gotta do. No, start with celery juice, it's fine. But just don't complain that you're not getting better and you've tried MM and you did it all when you didn't and you just did some celery juice. Because there's so many more places you can go. So many more directions you can go into customizing. So it's like, You can start as at the beginning with celery juice, but you know the cat's claw is here if you're really struggling. Lexi Hannah says, I take cat's claw among other ones you have here. They are really moving the needle for me. My fibro has reduced immensely. So what happens with, Lexi, what happens with fibro is you're dealing with the Epstein-Barr virus, right? I talk about that and I teach that to doctors all the time. It's the Epstein-Barr virus creating fibromyalgia. That's original medical medium information. Now science is talking about that now. And so it's medical medium science versus that stuff out there. So science is now talking about, hey, Epstein-Barr, creates fibromyalgia. Now, cat's claw is an Epstein-Barr killer. Epstein-Barr creates neurological Lyme. Epstein-Barr creates multiple sclerosis. And just so you know, all those articles you see out there now about Epstein-Barr creating MS, I published it 7 years before. 7 years before it was published, okay, about the cause of multiple sclerosis. And taught years before that by me in lectures and teaching doctors and so forth about the cause of MS. But the point is, with any symptoms, you may be somebody that's like, I don't have MS, AW, I don't have neurological Lyme. My doctor says, I might have autoimmune. Yeah, you got the autoimmune, or you got your symptoms, whatever symptoms those are. So cat's claw is one of those things where I've always seen this as a miracle. I saw it as a miracle going back years ago in my office when I would take the dried cat's claw out and make the person a tea right there, and they would sit there and they'd be sipping this cat's claw, or they'd be sitting there with their doctor and they're both sipping the cat's claw. And if I knew, because, everybody's at their own free will, the world has its own free will. If I knew years and years later that we'd have a cat's claw at the ready in our hand that's better than anything I've used all these years, I'd be blown away, and I am blown away. Definitely. Now, we have stronger bugs today, too, than we did years before, and that's a problem we're up against. We got stronger bugs. We got stronger EBVs. We got stronger shingles. We got more toxic heavy metals. We got more chemicals we're up against all the time. So we're up against more than we ever were up against before. So what that means is, my blood test was fine with my B12. I don't need any B12. Doctor said my blood test is fine. The world has changed. Did you know that the level that they actually depict as being fine, the window of where the B12 needs to be on the blood test, is from the 1920s? Did you know that? The 1920s. So everybody's walking around now with all kinds of different elevated Epstein-Barrs. They got the herpes simplex 1 and 2. They got cytomegalovirus. They got HPV. They got HIV. They got AIDS. They're walking around with all this stuff. Toxic heavy metals, lots of chemicals, and we're using the B12 level that was a theory as being the right B12 level in 1920. So what you see on your blood work is 1920's depiction of a group of doctors in the science world in 1920 that believe that was where the B12 level should be at. And that's what we rely on. We rely on something from 1920, from guesswork to where your B12 needs to be on the blood test. Not to what we're up against today in the world we're up against, fighting what we're fighting against. Trying to heal people on Mattress Island, everybody falling ill. We know how everybody's falling ill now and getting there. And so with all that, and the flus too that we're up against now, and everything else that we keep on getting hit with, that we're going to then go by the gold standard of 1920 from some guesswork that that's where your B12 level is supposed to be at. And if you do go by that, fine. But is it even getting into the cells? It's another thing too. So anyways, going back to the 5-MTHF, right? So that's the methylfolate right there. It helps with the methylation. So the incredible thing about like the Vimergy products, like the Vimergy B12, it needs less of the methylation. That's what's amazing right there, right? It needs less of methylation. Other B12s, that won't even get into cells. There's so many B12s out of there that won't even budge into cells, right? The Vimergy B12 is the right blend of adenosylcobalamin and methylcobalamin. And then and that alone actually beats out methylation issues. But then if you're somebody that had all these B12 shots and all these issues, you might want to ask your doctor, hey, can I take the methylfolate, right? And this is the stuff that I recommend friends and family, people who come to me, doctors that talk to me about stuff like that. So let's move on to something else. So I'm just talking about a couple of these things right there. Let's talk about melatonin right here. So on YouTube, okay, Venislav says, I healed from a tough ear infection after 3 months on medical meeting protocols and lifestyle. Thank you, AW and SOC. This is life-saving. Amazing. Honored to have you here, truly. And I'm glad you're doing better and feeling so much better. So I'm talking about melatonin right now. Melatonin is really interesting, okay? Because first of all, it's an antioxidant, and that's what it is. But it's an antioxidant that goes to the brain, which is why I like melatonin, all right? So one of the things about melatonin, and I'll show you your brain right here. One of the things I like is it slows down angiogenesis, right? So it slows down blood vessels growing from growths, blood vessels growing from tumors and cysts and growths and stuff like that, okay? So I really, really love melatonin for that reason alone. But for mental health conditions, I love melatonin greatly because it is an antioxidant that has a different access to the brain and brainstem. So antioxidants, all antioxidants have a different pathway into our body. An antioxidant from one source, a polyphenol, anthocyanin from one source, will enter the body in a different way, organs in the body and glands in a different way than some other antioxidant source will do. When it comes down to a hormone antioxidant like melatonin, a brain hormone antioxidant, it's easy access through blood-brain barrier. It's easy access, and that's what I love about it, okay? Audrey Antler says, but doesn't melatonin mess up your hormones? It does not. It has nothing to do with estrogen, has nothing to do with anything of that sort, has nothing to do with testosterone, has nothing to do with epinephrine, has nothing to do with adrenal hormones, has nothing to do with thyroid hormones or any of the sort or any of that. There is no science that has showcased that it does. Okay, that was an attack a while back on melatonin because melatonin is very helpful for a word I can't say on here. So because melatonin is helpful for a word that sounds like answer, because melatonin is helpful for answer, it has been attacked, and some of the sabotage has been things like that. Oh, it'll mess up your hormones, which it doesn't. Oh, it'll do this, which it doesn't. Because it's good for answer. You know, answering the phone. It's good for answering the phone. It's good for answering questions. It's good for answer. All right. So the melatonin, so that's the best melatonin out there. I take like 6 or 8 capsules a night. Do what your doctor says. Do what your doctor tells you, you know, whatever. I'm just saying that for me personally, I'll do 6 or 8 capsules every single night. Last night, I took a handful of capsules. That's what I did last night. Last night, right before bed. That's what I did. Okay? And so, and it's not messing up my hormones. Okay? So last night, I just did that. That's what I did. I'll just show you on the camera. I didn't even count them. Didn't count them. Didn't say 5 milligram, 10 milligram, 20, 25 milligram, 20, whatever. I just poured them into my hand like this last night, like that, and I sent them down. I didn't count how many. I didn't count whatever. That's what I did. If you're somebody that is interested in melatonin, ask your doctor what's right for you. Don't do what I'm doing. Do what's right for you. So anyway, MB Doom said, geez, that's a lot. Caroline says LMAO. That's a serious LMAO. All right, anyway, you guys. So I'll talk about melatonin a little bit more, right? Anxiety, depression, OCD, depersonalization, bipolar, schizophrenia, right? Deep sadness, so no one knows why they're sad. Okay? A feeling of being lost, a feeling of being kind of out of it, a feeling of being like disconnected, like you need to be someplace else, a feeling of having anxiousness, anxiety, all that with it, a feeling like you got like memory loss, like a feeling of like, am I losing my memory? Or a sensation of like, am I losing my memory? Anything like that. Or if you have memory issues, ADHD, right? Autism, all of it. Sylvia says, if you're healthy, why would you take that many melatonin? Because I do something I don't recommend anybody else to do, is I am making a special surprise announcement. I'm hoping the beginning of this week coming up. And I'm excited. So I got to surprise you guys at the beginning of this week. But anyway, the point is the reason why, like, why would I take this much if I don't have a health problem? Because I burn the candle at four ends. I work 20-hour days. I work 22-hour days. I work 18-hour days, 19-hour days. I work 7 days a week. I haven't taken a vacation in decades. So that's what I do. I work for God. I work for the chronically ill. I don't work for myself. I work for God and I work for the chronically ill. And when you do that, you don't put yourself first. So I don't do self-care. I want everybody else to do self-care. I want you guys to be into self-care. I want you to take care of yourselves. It's critical. Okay? But what I do is something different. So I push the pedal to the metal. I step on the gas. And I drive fast in life. Not literally in a car, because driving fast is bad in a car. Don't do it. The bottom line is, so what I like to do is I like to protect myself, because if anybody actually looked at my schedule and looked at my life and saw in my personal life how hard I work and how many years and what I do, they would be scared for my life. And so what I do, because Spirit Compassion says, take care of yourself. Make sure you're getting that antioxidant in your brain. Make sure your B12 is cranked up because of what you do. Make sure you take care of yourself. So that's what I do. I try to take care of myself where I can, like the easiest way I can. So what brand of melatonin? Roxanne says that's Vimergy. It's V as in Victor, I, M as in Mary, ERGY. You'll see the label right there, Vimergy. Vimergy.com. I'm not sponsored, right? And I don't own Vimergy. I'm not the owner of the company. It's just the best stuff there is. Hands down, it's the best. Does it make a difference? When you have good stuff, it makes a difference. Huge one. It moves the needle. And that's the difference right there. So, talk about ashwagandha for a couple of minutes. I know that we have a crisis right now with women in hair loss. Samantha Half says, are you paid by Vimergy? I am not sponsored. I don't have that thing where, people get sponsored. So they get, what is it like? They get paid because they're sponsored and all that stuff. So no, I'm not paid by Vimergy. So, yeah, I'm not the owner of Vimergy. I'm not a part owner of Vimergy or nothing. So I'm not an ambassador. So I'm not an ambassador. So I don't get paid as an ambassador. I'm not a whatever the people are with all that. They get sponsored, they're ambassadors and all that stuff to everything. No. It's just the most powerful stuff that I've found that I like for my friends and family. I recommend to doctors. And of course, I tell you guys about it all the time. Elsie said you should be paid. It's funny. So this is the ashwagandha in my hands right now. So I want to tell you about the ashwagandha. So there's a wave right now, okay, of hair loss for women. Massive wave of hair loss for women. And that's where we're heading into this world. We're heading into a world where that's going to be more and more obvious happening in people's lives. Doctors are going to be hearing about it all the time. So what I love about ashwagandha is ashwagandha does help the adrenals, and it helps the adrenals restore, which is a big part of why women have hair loss. So when it comes down to your adrenals, they get weak. And there's dosages in the book on that too. Like if you have a cleanse to heal, here's a cleanse to heal right here. I show you the dosages and all that in cleanse to heal. So in this life right here, with the stress that women are under, and men too, but the stress that women are under, right? Like women's hair follicles depend on how strong their adrenals are, because there's a hormone in their adrenal blend that keeps the hair follicle healthy and alive. So and you don't even have to have fatigue to have an adrenal problem. You could be missing one of the adrenal hormones or be really low on it, and then the hair starts falling out. So especially if you're up against stress or any kind of emotional confrontation. So what happens is with a lot of women is they'll have a difficult relationship, difficult friendship. They'll have, financial stress. They'll have a divorce. They'll have all kinds of other issues that happen in their life. And then a year later, the hair just starts pouring off their head. Like it's just coming out in droves. It's in the shower. It's on the shower floor. It's everywhere. It's in their hands. And they brush it. They just brush their hair, and it's just filling the brush. And it's like what feels to be like a tragedy as they're pulling out all the hair out of their brush, and they have hair all over their sink. And it becomes this thing where that all of a sudden becomes tremendous amounts of PTSD and stress as hair's just going everywhere and falling everywhere. So family member reached out to me that has a best friend. The best friend's just losing all their hair, and she's just losing, it's everywhere. And like, AW, what do I do? It's like ashwagandha. That's the first thing. Make sure you've got enough ashwagandha. And she was like, well, no, I tried ashwagandha. She tried ashwagandha. Well, what kind? And she was doing these ashwagandha capsules. And then she switched and she used this ashwagandha, and the hair started to slow down. So it does make a difference when it's the right stuff, right? That's one. Another thing I said, are you on B12? Like, well, there's B12 in my multivitamin. So what this family member's friend said to me is there's B12 in their multivitamin, and that should be enough. And there's B12 in their hair, skin, and nails vitamin, and that should be enough. I said, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's that much B12, and it's not even a good quality one. So the B12 in the multivitamin is just only a smidgen. It is not even a good one, and it's just not enough. Well, what do you suggest, AW? Boom, 4 dropperfuls of B12 a day, 2 dropperfuls twice a day, and you do your ashwagandha. And then boom, less hair was falling out, and then it stopped. And this person's hair was just falling out for quite a while, and they went to all their functional medicine doctors, and they were trying this, and they were on hair, skin, nail formulas, and they were doing this, and it wasn't enough. So anyway, talking about ashwagandha for the adrenals, strengthening the adrenals, right? I take ashwagandha. I take it every night. So what I do with ashwagandha, right, is do 3 dropperfuls. Now with B12, you don't have to do it in your mouth. You can do it in water and have it in a shot glass. I'm just letting you guys know. A lot of people are like, well, what about the B12? Just put it in your mouth, have it under your tongue. You don't have to. It's a bunch of dropperfuls right there of ashwagandha. So that's what I'll do at night, right? But I love that question. Why am I taking anything if nothing's wrong with me? Well, I think if someone, and I had a doctor tell me this, a surgeon said that the hours I work, if they did those hours, they would literally need a sabbatical, a year off. So what I like to do is I like to keep the engine going. So I use all the good stuff to do it. I take all the good stuff away, take away the cleanses, the medical meme cleanses that I like to do, take away the mono eating cleanse, which I love to do every now and then, switch off and do that, take away Spirit of Compassion's information, put me on just whatever diet or keto diet, or put me on some just plant-based diet or a keto diet, animal protein, take away, all my access to all the best stuff and supplements. And yeah, if I'm doing 20 hours a day, I could start probably getting some problems. Like adrenals can start getting worn down and beat up. Central nervous system needs fuel. So it's all these things that are so critical. Take away my celery juice, and yeah, I'm a human being. And if you work 20 hours a day and you push push it that hard, you can actually get yourself in trouble. So I do my 32 ounces of celery juice every single morning. I do my heavy metal detox smoothie because we're always getting all kinds of, contamination with heavy metals everywhere. It's in the air. It's everywhere. If I stop doing my heavy metal detox smoothie and my celery juice, and I stop doing the things that protect me and the B12 that I take every day, and the propolis and the zinc, right? Then yeah, there could be a problem that could develop. I'm a human being. I'm not supernatural human, just superhuman or something, not a superhero. Anna says, why does stomach get upset when you take so many at one time? Well, I don't ever get a upset stomach, right? So I can take a whole bunch at once. If you're somebody, you could be somebody already. Here's the thing too. So be your own detective. Your stomach never gets upset ever. So only when you take a bunch of supplements at once, like it never gets upset. Like you don't have a history. Like ask yourself, do I have a history of my stomach getting upset when I had popcorn and I ate this or I did this? Have I ever been to a doctor about acid reflux? Have I ever been to a doctor about my stomach being upset? Like be your own detective and realize that it's not the supplements that make them upset. Unless it's something like you took a vitamin C that's straight ascorbic acid, which is like battery acid, right? So you took a vitamin C. I don't have the micro C right here in front of me, but you took a vitamin C that's like straight ascorbic acid and you have a sensitive stomach, then yeah, you're going to burn a hole in your stomach from bad vitamin C's. There's vitamin C's in those packets, those little packets. Everybody goes into the store and they're like, oh, I'm going to grab some of those vitamin C packets right there. That's straight battery acid. I actually saw a commercial on YouTube for those just recently or something like that. And I'm like, oh great. Yeah. Put $10 million into advertising that battery acid in a packet. Right. So, and if you got a sensitive stomach, it's things like that can really aggravate that stomach. But people that, people have inflamed nerves in the stomach. So if they have inflamed nerves in the stomach, if someone has a sensitive nervous system, nerves going to the stomach, if someone has an ulcer and they don't know it, right? They might have an ulcer and they actually don't know it. Okay? So that means they're going to be sensitive with other things too. So if you're someone that never went to a doctor or never complained about a stomach problem ever, and you're taking a bunch of supplements and it's giving you a tummy ache, make sure they're the right kind, make sure they're high quality, make sure there's no alcohol in those supplements, make sure there's no all the fillers and crazy fillers and citric acid. Citric acid in a supplement will just burn the heck out of the stomach lining. I mean, the Vimergy stuff's not like that. So I just want to make that clear. So that's not like that. And if for some reason you're somebody, because you have stomach problems, then you take it slow and you do a little bit at a time. Ask your doctor what's right for you. That's what I would tell a family member. When someone's sensitive, they can take less and then have it with foods. It's another thing too. Like if someone's really sensitive because they have sensitive stomach issues and they want to take a little bit of B12 or something, you take it with food and you take less. Right? Sherry Joy Green, good to see you, Dr. Sherry. So you guys, this is some of the information I want to talk about today. And when it comes down to supplementation, there's so many bad versions out there that they can create a scar in somebody's life with supplements. So then someone's taking so many bad multivitamins and protein powders and bad hair, skin, and nail supplements and bad herbal concoctions that were with alcohol or herbal powders that had all that clay in it. And they have these bad experiences and that doesn't help, right? Now, you don't have to take supplements to heal depending on where you are. Like the medical medium information is customizable. Like I said, you can start with celery juice. I can't tell you how many people in this world are drinking celery juice right now and they've gotten rid of their acid reflux or whatever it is just from celery juice. Angela says, Anthony, please tell the people if they can take them all together or if they can space them out. Do what's right by you and your doctor, but what I do is I take them all together just out of easiness for me, right? So I'll take them all together, okay? You can space them out if you want. You can take them all together. You can do anything you'd like to do. Just getting them in is really important. Stephanie Crown says, can you combine drops of different things to take all at the same time, please, or should be separate? Help answer, please. I'm very ill. You know, I tell doctors all the time that their patients can put them all in the same thing because a lot of people are sick. So what they'll do is they don't have the energy to do it differently. So I just put some ashwagandha in there. Now I just put some B12 in there. You know, do what your doctor tells you to do. I'm just showing you what I would do personally or for my friends or family, right? And then you add water to this. So there's some cat's claw in there. So I did some cat's claw. I did some B12. I did some ashwagandha. Now I'm going to go here. I'm going to do some licorice, right? So then I got some licorice right here. And, right? Or if, do some lemon balm right here. And here's some lemon balm. Okay? I'm going to 2 dropperfuls of lemon balm in here. Yeah, and you could do that. And then you add a little bit of water to it. So let me go and add a little bit of water. Okay? And then I shoot that down. And you can chase it down with more water. Of course you can. But that's what I do. You know, ask your doctor if this is okay for you to do, right? And see what he says or she says. Joel says, Anthony, I read in your book to say I work for God as an affirmation, and it's helped me so much. Thank you, thank you. Well, thank you for being here, and I'm honored that you're here. You guys, I am going to go on IG. I'm going to put Telegram on. I'm going to put TikTok back on. We're going to go to Instagram, and we're going to talk about supplements more and the whole bit. I might talk about another supplement. I was going to talk about olive leaf, and I didn't get a chance to talk about olive leaf, on how it's antiviral, how it's antibacterial, how I love it for a lot of things. So I might talk about that then. Anyway, you guys, I am heading over, and thank you for being here today. It's incredible getting any time I can to talk to you guys. April Taft's asking about Dr. Nesbitt. I'm hoping he's doing good. I haven't heard from Dr. Nesbitt in a little while, and that scares me because he could be on a drinking binge. And I know he said he had a tough week of surgeries, and sometimes he just disappears. And I hope he's not laying around with too much alcohol in his system. So I will check on Dr. Nesbitt when I can. I love you guys. And I am heading off to IG in a little bit. So I'll see you soon.